Well, the Prime Minister is hoping the new financial year will deliver a long-awaited face-to-face meeting with Donald Trump, and there's plenty to discuss with the US President.
Let's get into it. Anthony Albanese joins us now live from Canberra. PM, good morning to you. Nice to see
PM.
you. Look, every Quad leader has met him. It's all got a little bit embarrassing, hasn't it? Pretty simple question. When are you going to meet the Donald?
Not at all. Look, we will meet when we meet in coming months, but my priority has been on delivering for Australians, and today is a day of delivery. Whether it's an extra 2 weeks paid parental leave, super on paid parental leave, superannuation up to 12%. 3 million of your listeners will get a 3.5% wage increase today. Paid prac for students studying to be a teacher or a nurse for the first time. I think most people would think that people undertaking to be a nurse would get paid when they're doing their prac work, but sadly that hasn't been the case until today. 30% rebate off batteries if you've got solar panels on your roofs. All of these changes come in making an enormous difference for cost of living. They're all things that we promised to do and put in our budget in March, and they will make a real difference going forward, on top of course, the fact that we've got inflation down to 2.1%, and we've already had 2 interest rate decreases this year.
All right, we were going to come to all of that, but you've now got it out of your system. So let's go back to the first question that Carl asked.
He has got it out of his system.
In coming months, you said, in terms of meeting Donald Trump, do you have a date? It sounds a bit open-ended. In coming months?
Well, it is at this point in time, but we'll have a meeting. We've had a few constructive discussions. I'm sure when we meet, it will be constructive as well. As you know, the President left the G7 because there was a war going on with Iran and Israel, and the President's intervention is something that we supported and something that has led to a ceasefire, which is good news.
Is Penny Wong going to meet with him?
Foreign ministers don't meet with presidents.
Okay.
Leaders of countries meet with leaders. That's what happens. She's meeting her counterpart, Marco Rubio, and that's a good thing.
I could be cruel and say neither do prime ministers.
Well, prime ministers do meet with leaders. I met the former president a number of times. I was in the US just a couple of weeks ago, of course, in Seattle, where we announced, along with Amazon, what is one of the largest ever investments from a US company into Australia, billions of dollars, creating thousands of jobs, which will make an enormous difference here. And that shows the strength of the economic relationship that's there between Australia and the United States.
All right, well, when you, Prime Minister, eventually meet with Donald Trump, the President, what are you going to offer him to escape tariffs? I mean, remember tariffs, that feels like so long ago now in this climate. If it's not going to be defence spending increase, what will you say to him?
Well, we have, to make this point, I know there's a bit of a focus on this in the media. The truth is that we have, as a tariff, which is, of course, a cost on US purchases of Australian goods and services of 10%. There's no country in the world that has a lower tariff than Australia.
So you're not concerned by it?
That's the starting point. Well, that's the starting point. And indeed, if you look at our beef exports, we're up 91% by value when it comes to April this year compared with April last year when there weren't tariffs. So the goods are still being exported. It's just that those purchasing those goods are paying more for them. And that is why tariffs are an act of economic self-harm. That's why we haven't reciprocated by imposing tariffs on US imports into Australia, consistent with our free trade agreement. But we'll have a constructive dialogue, as we have already, about the strength of our economic relationship, as well as AUKUS and our defence partnership, which is there. The United States is an important ally of Australia. But Australia contributes to that partnership. When you look at some of the coverage, you would think we were this country that just did nothing, contributed nothing to it. Well, I will talk Australia up because we are an important ally. We contribute so much to peace and security in our own region by investing in our capabilities, but importantly as well, the role that we play in investing in our relationships in the region is absolutely critical.
I agree.
That's why my first
PM,
visit...
I agree with you completely, but I can't comprehend how the President, given how close allies we have been with the US for so long, couldn't give a rat's about meeting with you. I think it's so disrespectful. I mean, why don't you just tell him to bugger off?
Sorry, I've lost the audio there.
Have you? Carl was just asking if why don't you tell the President to bugger off? He seems to be snubbing you, given our close ties.
No, not at all. And we've had really constructive discussions. They've been respectful. I've been respectful of the President, and I must say that he's been respectful of me as well. When he rang to congratulate me on the election, and that's a positive thing. And I've also had, of course, constructive discussions with members of the US administration, as have my ministers. But you know, the President has a view about tariffs. It's different from Australia's view, and it must be said that it's different from past President's view as well. And what most economists realise, that free and fair trade is a good thing for the world, and America has benefited from that.
Right.
Now, this President has a right to adopt his America First policy, as he calls it. We have a right to represent Australia's national interests.
Well, just on that,
and
PM...
that's what I will do.
Just on that, PM, you know, when you talk about Australia's interests, we need to be able to defend ourselves, right? And the Financial Review this morning has a story about Richard Marles, the Defence Minister, not actually being briefed by the ADF for 2.5 years. How is that acceptable? How do you explain something like that happening?
Well, that's just absurd. That's just absurd.
So he has been briefed in the past 2.5 years on our capabilities?
Yes.
Okay.
Of course. That's just ridiculous, frankly. I haven't seen that report. But we sit in the National Security Committee with the Chief of the Defence Force. We meet regularly. I certainly have met with heads of all of the armed forces regularly. And, you know, that is just completely incorrect. We came to office, we initiated a defence strategic review that outlined what elements we need in the lead up to budget. The idea of this $57 billion that we've added to our defence investment, of our capability, has come directly after discussions and engagement, obviously, with defence. And in the last budget in March, indeed, we brought forward $1 billion of additional spending, bringing to over $10 billion our additional commitments over the forward estimates as well.
All right, the Prime Minister is rightly angry at you, Sarah. I thought that was a silly question as well.
I'll never read the Financial Review ever again. That is my commitment. Thank you, PM.
All right, this morning we are winding
Don't
the clock.
believe everything you read in the papers.
Exactly.